Hello everyone, I'm implementing new construction methods that don't require the skills of a carpenter, mason, or welder. Usually, you don't even need a plasterer. Anyone who ever built sandcastles as a child is already an intuitive plasterer. This outdoor shower cost me next to nothing, at least when you compare how it looks to how much I spent on it. Its water tank is homemade. I'm still building the house, and the material costs in my plan shouldn't go over 1,000 United States dollars. How much is that in rubles? I've been confused lately. Due to the sudden heat after the unusual spring cold, I decided to quickly build an outdoor shower. And not to use any metal or any wood at all, since both are a luxury these days. First of all, I bought a small amount of Penoplex, that is, extruded polystyrene foam. Almost all of it is 3 centimeters thick, and only 3 sheets are 5 centimeters thick. Since here in Homa, I couldn't find polystyrene foam that's roughened on both sides, called Penoplex Wall, I roughened Penoplex Comfort myself with a metal brush. I'm not cutting corners, the surface must be very rough. I'm gluing together 3 sheets, each 5 centimeters thick, to make the base of the roof tank. My main goal is to keep the total cost of the shower about the same as a store-bought water tank. That's why I came up with the idea of making a roof with an integrated tank. And since I already have experience making walls this way, and I'm completely confident I can do it, I immediately started working on the most difficult part, the roof of the tank. I use screws to temporarily hold the parts while gluing, then remove them since metal isn't needed. As usual, I glue the polystyrene foam with polyurethane adhesive. It expands less than regular construction foam, making it more convenient to use in these cases. I pre-cut the alkali-resistant plaster fiberglass mesh to the required sizes. Everything is similar to the walls of the $1,000 house and our outdoor Euro toilet, both built with the same technology. I use construction mixes designed for gluing polystyrene and mineral wool boards to the base during insulation work and for creating reinforced layers. They're sold at all hardware stores. When working on corners, I lay the mesh with a slight radius instead of a sharp 90-degree bend. As we can see, there's nothing complicated about it, and an average person who has only recently picked up plastering tools can handle the task at hand. With a trowel, I use a spatula to spread it, level it with a notched float, and then smooth it with a wide spatula for an even finish. I apply the second layer once the first starts drying. I decided to use double reinforcement because of the importance of the object I'm making. I do the same thing on the other side. The tank measures 1.5 by 1.5 meters outside, with nearly 2 square meters of usable space inside. So, adding just 10 centimeters of water already fills it with 200 liters. I'm making the sides this high to hold at least 15 centimeters of water, or 300 liters. That's double the amount of a typical store-bought outdoor shower tank. The tank walls will slope slightly since it's also a roof. Cement-based mixtures set in 28 days, so when they dry slowly, they're very easy to work with. I leave the tank to continue setting. By the way, under the videos about building a $1,000 house and our Euro toilet. In the comments, people often refer me to the story of the 3 little pigs. I don't take offense at that, and I'll say it in the words from Soviet times. Maybe we were meant to make fairy tales real. But the reality won't be that. Because of flimsy materials, we'll end up with a fragile structure like 2 of the 3 little pigs. On the contrary, the structure will be very sturdy. Because foam board plus mesh plus glue is already a real composite. It's hot, so we have to moisten the result of our work. After last year's balcony floor renovation in our house, leftover foam board remained from under the concrete screed, which was ruined due to damaged waterproofing. This is Penoplex 35 from the 2006 batch. It spent 15 years under the screed and a year outdoors. It's a stronger material than Penoplex Comfort and is similar to the modern Penoplex foundation. Extruded polystyrene foam is a nearly permanent material. Only the crowbar and a bit of sun left marks. But my metal brush easily removes the marks left by the star closest to us. I replaced the crowbar pier sheets with new ones. I used the same technology for the balcony floor remodel, and it's held up fine for a year. Remember, you can find all videos about the $1,000 house, balcony waterproofing remodel, outdoor Euro toilet, and more on the Songs of Yasha Koshak YouTube channel. Subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss anything. Many viewers of my channel were really upset a year ago when I was throwing these sheets off the balcony. But in the household, everything gets used. Now it's their turn. I'm gluing the extruded polystyrene foam shower base and letting it set. People often ask about the adhesive mix. I've used this kind too. And this one as well, and I've used others too. I try to buy the ones that are on sale. And it's much easier to work with mesh that doesn't fall apart into fibers in your hands, because mesh like that makes you nervous, and being nervous is bad for you. To enjoy your work, it's better to choose the right fiberglass mesh. Maybe professionals can work with any mesh, but the kind that falls apart stresses me out. I recently learned that the polymers in these adhesive mixtures are responsible for the reliability of the base reinforcing layer, meaning they ensure the secure attachment of phenolystyrene. That's why it's safer not to replace it with tile adhesive or alternatives. The base reinforcing layer is essential, allowing for almost any finish to be applied later. I haven't been able to come up with my own homemade, cheaper mixture yet, because circumstances have changed a lot over the past few months. And I have to hustle a lot more, trying to keep the family income at last year's level. But it hasn't worked out yet. The drop is significant. I'm applying the reinforcing layers as I did last year, using our planet's gravity. I've started learning the basics of intuitive plastering. A notched trowel allows you to apply layers of the mixture with an even thickness. I haven't mastered using it yet, but I'm trying. So by using trowels with different sizes of notches, you can apply different thicknesses. But for now, I only have one for all situations. And I want to remind you that even the most inexperienced do-it-yourself builder can plaster a wall that's positioned horizontally. Even children manage to do it with us. You just need a little time for your musculoskeletal system to adapt to working in this position. I apply 2 reinforced layers to each side of the base, letting them set between applications. The plastic grid stayed after the balcony renovation. It's better to do projects like this in between other tasks. For example, if you're working in your garden or yard, you can take a short break to work on it. Using the measurements, I marked the future wall layout and used 12 by 12 MMR plastic cable duct scraps. I used last year's tile adhesive for a small sloped screed. I reinforced the ends and bases with 2 layers. For added reliability, I reinforced the screed too. I'm often asked if it's possible to make such walls and then use them to insulate an existing house. If the house is already built, I think the traditional insulation method is easier. That is to glue foam board to the outside of the walls and create a basic reinforced layer on its surface, onto which you can then apply a variety of finishing options. Walls like mine are worth building when there are no walls at all. The slope turned out to be about 1.5 centimeters per meter. That's enough of a slope for the gravity of our still green planet to catch the water and move it into the drain pit. Every nation has its own distinctive features. We Belarusians are often criticized for our "my house is on the edge" attitude. I agree it's not ideal, but a house you can move, that's a super house. This method allows for that. When the clouds gathered, you simply took your house and left. This is our outdoor toilet, which we built last year. Since we may move soon, I haven't made a pit yet. It's unused and building a shower nearby is inconvenient, so we'll reinstall it after construction. This method's clear advantage is producing sturdy, rigid, and portable results. Meanwhile, our old dog is guarding the house worth $1,000. And this is what we call Zapadlo. The root was cut off a few years ago. The sewer line runs exactly where the septic tank will be. You couldn't hit it like that even if you tried. A bit of gravel, and I got the chance to get rid of 3 old tires. A bit more gravel, just a little construction debris, and the drain is ready. Next, using a wooden beam with a level attached to it, I try to create a depression, guides by whose level I'll plan the surface of the subbase. I sprinkle the leveled surface with a thin layer of sand and lay the base. Then I push some soil under the edges with a wooden beam. I managed to keep it level. A brief rain soon confirmed this. Extruded polystyrene foam is versatile, used to insulate floors, roofs, walls, and balconies. I'm working on a method to turn this material, reinforced with mesh and thin, cheap construction mixes, from a basic insulator into a strong structural material. Once again, I make sure the sheets aren't rough. Since I haven't figured out how to use the L-edge when joining corners, I cut it off on the short sides. I also cut off the L-edge of the first 4 sheets on one long side. This time, I built the walls vertically right away to try something new. In June, my wife proudly displayed the first zucchini from our tall, warm garden beds. Some drinking friends used to say, just wait for zucchinis in summer and you'll have snacks for a long time. I agree, zucchini, like potatoes, which we Belarusians love, can be used in many dishes. Making it to zucchini season likely means you'll reach potato season too. Potatoes are key, add vodka and pork cracklings, and you have a true Belarusian dream. In short, it's perfect. I'm temporarily screwing the next row of foam board at the corners and to the row below. Even in this state, our future building survived a strong thunderstorm at night. I'm gluing the sheets with overlapping corners, thanks to the aligned base and geometric precision of the sheets. So far, everything is just perfect. And in these shots, it's my construction debut in creating the reinforcing layer for the vertical walls. It looks pretty decent in a bit of fast forward mode. From below, I tuck the mesh in and glue it to the base. Perhaps this method can be considered a modern continuation of the wattle and daub technique, which dates back centuries. There's polystyrene foam instead of a frame, fiberglass mesh instead of chopped straw, and a modern plaster adhesive instead of clay. In other words, everything is done according to classic construction feng shui. The heat has arrived, but it's actually what motivates me to build the summer shower faster and faster. I covered the pause with plastic film to prevent it from drying out. By the way, this is great fitness, which, combined with agri-fitness, helps maintain at least some physical activity. I want to note that I also enjoyed working with the walls in a vertical position. It's time for us to straighten our backs. Row by row, you can build nearly any structure. Thermal properties depend on polystyrene foam thickness, while strength is set by the reinforcing layer's thickness. You have to go through the plastering process anyway, and in this case, almost the entire construction depends on this one operation. No beacons are required, since with thin layers it's very difficult to make large errors. The reinforcing layers are only a few millimeters thick, letting you cut construction volume by dozens of times. If you could keep finding something to rely on, then in this way you could probably build a tower. They bricked me in, those demons. I also reinforced the walls with 2 layers. If I hadn't planned to put a tank on top, 1 layer reinforced with fiberglass mesh would be enough. I'll decorate the walls to look like brick, since brick shows more prosperity than wood, though making them look like wood is also easy. And as you know, showing off is more expensive than money. I don't know if you can call using these rails with nails spaced as precisely and thickly as bricks a life hack, but they really do save time. The guide sits on the nails instead of the wall, letting you mark joints on fresh mortar. There are plenty of methods for getting these kinds of cheap coatings, so I'll keep it brief here. Just 1.5 bags of tile adhesive mixed with river sand created the brick texture. Vegetable gardens, fruit trees, shrubs, and lawns exhaust gardeners, horticulturists, and those who love landscaping. Only an outdoor shower can truly restore that energy. Sun-charged water can revitalize us and boost our energy for new achievements. Where's the entrance? I need it. Our structure stands firmly, but as shown in this footage, the material remains flexible. Everything changed drastically when I started applying the inner layers. Even a relative stopped by to take a look at this marvel of modern architecture. This construction lets you skip the frame, simplifying everything. I make sure to overlap the mesh onto the foundation. If I could turn back time with what I know now, I would have built the $1,000 house without a frame. South of Belarus, lightning flashed all evening and subsided by midnight. But distant and nearby thunderstorms with wind gusts no longer threaten my building. Everything is solid and will only get stronger. During this time, the tank roof was reinforced and covered with 2 layers of leftover waterproofing from last year's balcony project. Large diameter plastic pipes are cheaper than 50mm sewer pipes. I think it's unlikely you can find anything cheaper. I chose them to edge the water tank. It will also be easy to attach transparent polycarbonate to them to create a greenhouse effect and speed up water heating. The logistics of delivering such building materials are very convenient. You drive to the construction site. On the way, you stop by a hardware store, buy a couple of packs of foam board, a couple of bags of adhesive, some mesh, and you're set with materials for a day or 2. You can get to work. And you don't need to invest a lot of money right away, like you have to when buying heavy materials delivered by truck. I cut off the top edge after I've checked the level. Who knows, maybe it's a container. A dress rehearsal before attempting to build a pool using this cheap composite material. When installing the roof container, there was no shortage of strong language, which I left off camera. The container turned out to be not as lightweight as it might seem. We could only put it in place after temporarily removing the frame. Then I carefully glued it. A night rain quickly tested the reservoir roof's waterproofing. With a textured roller in the same mixture, thinned out a bit, I apply a rough coat. Such structures can be finished very cheaply, just like I'm doing. Or you can use costly finishes, making this shower suitable even in elite cottage communities. I bought a shower at the market to mount on a barrel and made minor modifications. Problems like plaster peeling from polystyrene or wind blowing facades off high-rises only occurred due to poor workmanship and ignoring proper technique. Since we, as post-Soviet people, often rely on chance and tend to be overconfident. I'm drilling the ceiling, no emotions. And then the water started flowing. Maybe I'm the first person who dared to climb such a tall structure with a core made of polystyrene foam. That's one small step for man, but maybe a giant leap for all super cheap construction. But I think someone has already said something like that before, haven't they? The moment of truth is coming. Hooray, everything is working. The fur coat has dried and only the little things remain. So far, I've only filled the tank by a third, but it feels like these walls could easily handle a ton of load. But that's just a feeling, which I'll be testing in practice later on. I'll only do a full fill after 28 days when it reaches full strength. And most importantly, we try to remember that our construction safety when using household methods is only in our own hands. That's why it's best to use common sense. Many Americans can afford timber and drywall houses, but tornadoes can easily destroy or carry them away. Yes, they save on materials there, but here, because of our commitment to expensive building materials and technologies, often, even at 30 or 40 years old, people continue to live with their parents or in rented housing. Because for many, it's only really possible to save up for building a solid house by the time they're 80. I prefer a simpler house now over a sturdier one later in old age. Cheap, no arguments. It's standing, that's enough. A $1,000 house likely won't include a shower or toilet as they're separate costs. I fastened the polycarbonate scraps with strips, pipe pieces, and self-tapping screws. Now, rapid water heating from the greenhouse effect is guaranteed. It cost a bit more than the toilet, but it definitely looks like $1,000. Because the tank's base and walls are extruded polystyrene foam, a great insulator, the sun-heated water should keep its heat longer. I like the result of edging the tank so much that I used it on the door frame as well. Now you can't scratch yourself on the edges and it looks sturdier. The sewer pipe works well. Regarding the environmental safety of polystyrene foam, let me remind you that besides being used as insulation, it's also used to make disposable cups for hot coffee and packaging for instant foods, which can even be heated in the microwave, children's toys, and much more. There is a type with plastic that is completely harmless in its finished form. And my wife liked the shower so much that she even helped with its interior painting. Give it a big thumbs up. Subscribe to the Yasha Koshek Songs channel. There you'll find out if this shower can handle 300 liters of water. Subscribe to my Zen and TikTok. The links are below the video. Also hit the bell and then I'll definitely keep you informed. Yes, let there be peace all over the world. Thank you.